A little too much. One, audio check. Audio check. I think that's, you just put the speaker the other way. Audio check, 1, 2. Yeah, there's a little bit of a delay. Are you getting any delay or something? 1, 2. Just turn it or something. Okay, and then this is Secretary Cardona.
Audio check, 1, 2, 1, 2.
Or like, not, it's the wrong word, I'm using the wrong word, but it's like a ring or something.
That's just,
It's not a ring.
yeah, that's also give it a little more.
Hey, are we getting, Nate, are we getting 2-minute warnings?
I don't know.
Okay. Thank you.
Hey, folks. Well, good afternoon. When America made 12 years of public education universal in the last century, we became, not figuratively, literally, the best educated public in the world, and better prepared than any other nation. And I would argue that it's one of the reasons why we were so successful and have been so successful. But as you've all observed, other nations have caught up. In the 21st century, in my view, I think the vast majority cover 30%, roughly 32%. That's 1/3 of the cost as opposed to before. It matters. I remember walking up, and now my dad, like probably a lot of your folks, cared a lot about your education. My dad's greatest regret was that he never got to go to college. And my dad was a very well-read man, particularly history, and but it was a great regret. And you always say, Joey, you're going to be a college man. And I'd say, Dad, but what does that matter? I mean, you can still get fired if you're a college man. He said, yeah, but they can never take it away from you. They can never take your education away. And I remember my senior year, I got into one of the little Ivies, and I got into a number of schools, and we're trying to get the money, even with financial assistance, to be able to go there. We had 4 kids, all of us wanting to go to school. And I remember going down after a baseball game. I went to a really good school up in Claymont, Delaware, on the Pennsylvania border, and drove down to Newark, Delaware. My dad worked at an automobile agency. He said, he won't lend it to me. He said, I'm so ashamed. I'm so damn ashamed. You know, my dad would, my dad was like millions of parents all across the country. Want to help the kids to get to school, but there was just no way to be able to do it. And because he believed, as I do, that education was a ticket to a better life. It's something Jill and I, Kamala and Doug, we understand deeply. I'm sure the vast majority of you do as well. But over time, that ticket has become too expensive for too many Americans. All this means is an entire generation is now saddled with unsustainable debt in exchange for an attempt, at least, at a college degree. The burden is so heavy that even if you graduate, you may not have access to the middle-class life that the college degree once provided. Many people can't qualify for a mortgage to buy a home because of the debt they continue to carry. They carry, it's too high. They can't come up with the down payment anyway. A lot of folks are even putting off starting an hour to get food in a trunk. And we provided rent and mortgage assistance to keep people from being evicted and thrown out in the street. Our approach to help Americans who need it the most was necessary. And it was the right thing to do. And it helped people avoid financial crisis, which helped our whole country as a consequence of that. That didn't benefit them. It benefited the whole economy. Our approach is why America's economic recovery was faster and stronger than any other advanced nation in the world. Now it's time to address the burden of student debt in the same way. Working closely with the Secretary of Education, he's got the hard job, Secretary Cardona. Here's what my administration is going to do to provide more breathing room for people so they have less burdened by student debt. And quite frankly, to fix the system itself, which when we came in, we both acknowledged was broken in terms of, anyway. There are 3 key factors what we're going to do today. First, we've made incredible progress advancing America's economic recovery. We've run down pandemic relief programs like the ones on unemployment insurance and small businesses. It's time we do the same thing for student loans. Student loan payments pause is going to 5%, in the top 5% of incomes, by the way, will benefit from this action, period. In fact, about 90% of the eligible beneficiaries make under $75,000 as family. Here's what that means. If you make under $125,000, you get $10,000 knocked off your student debt. If you make under $125,000 a year and you received a Pell Grant, you'll get an additional $10,000 knocked off that total, for a total of $20,000 relief. 95% of the borrowers can benefit from these actions. That's 43 million people. Of the 43 million, over 60% are Pell Grant recipients. That's 27 million people who will get $20,000 in debt relief. Nearly 45% can have their student debt fully canceled. That's 20 million people who can start getting on with their lives. All this means people can finally crawl out from under that mountain of debt, to get on top of their rent and their utilities, to finally think about buying a home or starting a family or starting an accident and cut it by another $300 billion over the next decade because Medicare will be paying less for prescription drugs, and over $1 trillion if you add it out for the next 2 decades. The point is this: there is plenty of deficit reduction to pay for the programs, cumulative deficit reduction to pay for the programs many times over. I will never apologize for helping Americans, working Americans and middle class, especially not to the same folks who voted for a $2 trillion tax cut that mainly benefited the wealthiest Americans and the biggest corporations, that slowed the economy, didn't do a hell of a lot for economic growth, and wasn't paid for, and racked up this enormous deficit. Just as we've never apologized when the federal government forgave almost every single cent of over $700 billion in loans to hundreds of thousands of small businesses across America during the pandemic. No one complained that those loans caused inflation. A lot of these folks in small businesses are working in middle-class families. They needed help. It was the right thing to do. So the outrage over helping working people, we're also fixing what's called, and this has been the bane of driving me crazy when I was out of office, the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. Now, this program forgives student loans to encourage those students who have those loans if they go and do public service. Think of the millions who are public school teachers, local police officers, workers at local charities, members of the military and the National Guard, and so many more. Think of the folks who work for federal, state, local, tribal governments, keeping essential services going, responding to natural disasters, all those firefighters and cops. The program is designed so that if you serve in one of these jobs, and we'll be able to list those and you'll be able to accurately assess whether you do, and make your loan payments for 10 years, even if it's not consecutive years, your remaining balance will be completely forgiven. It's a great idea, but the program's a mess. It's so inefficient and complicated, too many people just give up. Think if a service member defers their student loan payment while they're deployed. The system is so restrictive that their active duty service didn't count as public service, and the loan isn't forgiven as promised. It's outrageous. This is another game changer, and we're going to have people who are there to help get you, help direct you and work you through the process. And one more big change we're making to the system is we're holding colleges accountable for jacking up costs without delivering value to students. We've all heard of those schools luring students with a promise of big paychecks when they graduate, only to watch these students be ripped off and left with mountains of debt. And my predecessors looked the other way, for some reason, with good reason, to do anything about this fraud. My administration is taking it on. For example, the Department of Education works with private education associations to accredit colleges and universities so they can receive federal aid. Well, last week, the Department of Education fired a college accreditor that allowed colleges like ITT and Corinthian to defraud borrowers. And combined with our emergency actions, the Public Service Forgiveness Program and other actions we've taken, we've been able to cancel more than $32 billion in student debt for 1.6 million borrowers, including those defrauded by these bad acting schools. Our goal is to shine a light on the worst actors, so universal pre-K for every 3- and 4-year-old, and universal community college for education beyond high school. Let me close with this. I ran for office to grow the economy from the bottom up and the middle out. Because when we do that, everybody does better. Everybody does well. The wealthy do very well, the poor have a way up, and the middle class can have breathing room. And that's going to help America win the economic competition of the 21st century, because much of my time is spent, how do we remain the most competitive nation in the world with the strongest economy in the world, with the greatest opportunities in the world? That's what today's announcement is about. It's about opportunity. It's about giving people a fair shot. It's about the one word America can be defined by: possibilities. It's all about providing possibilities. We're going to have a lot more to say about this. There's a lot of material that's going to be put out as to how this is being implemented. And I want to thank you all, and God bless you all. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Mr. President, how much advance notice did you have of the FBI's plan to search Mar-a-Lago?
I didn't have any advance notice. None. Zero. Not one single bit. Thank you.
Mr. President, is this unfair to people who paid their student loans or chose not to take out loans?
Is it fair to people